Hello. I am going through my lists of different units, sorry, not different nations, and the top five most fun pieces of equipment. And today I'm going to talk about the Soviets. Um, for me, there are five picks among the Soviet arsenal that are very obvious and very clear. And I guess that you already know my number four or three, depending on where I put it. Um, so let me just go through the list. At a number five, I am putting SMGs. When you're running Soviets, as one of the only nations, you can take whole units of pretty cheap infantry with SMGs. You can even take forward deploying units, the Soviet scouts, that has a full unit of SMGs. This is awesome, and it's really fun to play. It makes your units stronger, it makes them much better, much more damage output oriented, and it's really, really good. And so that's really fun. It does get beat by number four, though. Number four is the all-inclusive, the Katusha, which is, of course, on a list such as this. I place it at number four because it's just been overused so much that I wouldn't say it's that fun anymore. But it is really good, and if you're playing Soviets, it's a really good choice. The only downside there is to Katusha, and that is a serious downside, is that you have to choose it in your tank slot. Which means that things such as the Darker Steward or a Flamer tank or anything else that you might want has to leave. Instead, you pick the Katusha, if you pick the Katusha, right? So that is a detriment, and that is the only reason why it's not higher up on my list. It's pretty cheap. It's mobile. It can stay in cover and then move out and then shoot, which is very rare to have that in a multi-launcher. And it's the only example of a multi-launcher where it's on wheels, right? The other multi-launchers might be on an expensive chassis that is a tank or something, not that good. This one is pretty good, especially for the point value. So, number three is the Tokarev. Again, we have a truck that's been converted into a weapon of war. The Tokarev, I think it was originally designed as an anti-aircraft vehicle, but since the Luftwaffe was pretty much beat down, I think most of the Tokarevs were actually used in combat. Although it's a silly thing to do, right? But you have four machine guns right next to each other. You can spray something, completely spray it, and envelop it in shots and bullets. And that's also what it does in bolt action. It erases units. You point your Tokarev at something and it will erase it. So, and that is always fun, although not at the receiving end, which is why it's only my number three. My number two is a bit of a quirky one. It's not one that I see many people use, but when it's used, it always has an impact. And it's my number two choice because it's unique to the Soviets. Nobody else gets it. And it is body armor. If I could have body armor on my Brits, I would definitely consider taking it. It makes the unit so much more survivable, only to be killed on sixes. And it's really, really interesting. It's really fun. It's really interesting. Although you do need to have certain types of lists to do it, and the units does become expensive. But for someone like me, who used to run Death Star units in 40k, yes, definitely. I would definitely consider that if I ever ran Soviets. So yeah, body armor. It's really fun. It makes your unit dead hard. But, of course, number one, it has to be, again, unique, Soviet, and has to do with animals. It's the bomb dogs. The only thing that's sort of a drawback with bomb dogs, I think, is the whole concept of this poor dog running in under an enemy tank, thinking that it's going to be rewarded because that happened every time before, and then it gets blown up. It's really sad, um, but bomb dogs are just so awesome weapons. They're so good. They have such a range, and as the only unit in the game, I think they always hit on the same. Right? It's always a 4+, no matter what. It's always a 4+. You can have as many pins as you like. If you can release the dogs, you hit on a 4+. That's really, really good, and it's really, really fun. It's a fun thing to play because they have such a long threat range, and you can use them in so many ways where there's so many tactical decisions you can do with them that really makes them interesting to play with. So bomb dogs is my number one for Soviet equipment. That is fun. Cheers.